Outside the shipping container house I'm building, there is literally a junkyard, and I was sick and tired of looking at it, so I decided to turn that into a terrace garden with two purposes in mind. One is to clean up the junkyard, two is to create a terrace garden, a vegetable garden, in preparation for full growth next year. My friend Dominic had dropped off 2 truckloads of wood chips about a year ago. I'm now spreading the wood chips on the slope by using a shovel and a wheelbarrow. There's no other way of doing it. My tractor is not of any help, but it's great exercise. You can see that I'm using logs to form the boundaries for the terrace garden. You're going to ask me, where did you get the logs? Did you cut trees down? No, I didn't cut any trees down. Instead, I went to a website that is getchipdrop.com or chipdrop.com to get my free mulch or free wood chips and free logs. You can see that I've literally hundreds of logs sitting there, and I went about picking the good ones out for what I need to do for the terrace garden. So all the logs and the wood chips are from that website. You have to be patient. It is sometimes a long waiting game. The website is set up mainly for the tree service companies when they need to dump some logs or wood chips. So I got most of those logs and the wood chips from about a year ago. There are a couple of things I want to mention here quickly. One is that I have this forklift attachment for the front loader. It is a great attachment. It's only about $200, and I think it's very much worth the money. Second thing is that when I was moving the logs, I was very careful. I didn't want to get injured, and the logs are heavy. So I was going about it very slowly, very deliberately, safety first. As I was rearranging the logs, I also made sure I would stake some of the logs so that they wouldn't roll down the slope. The stakes that I use are just 2x4s or whatever I can find. Here's a good example of how I would fit the logs into the terraces. I would first use a rake to dig a trench for the log. Then I would find the appropriate log for the place. Sometimes the log is a little bit too big. It doesn't match the neighboring log too well, so then I would go about finding another log. And if a log has branches sticking out, I would use my chainsaw to cut the branches off and make sure it is a good fit. Then I would use a rake to smooth out the wood chips. And if I need more mulch, I would then use a shovel to get more mulch from the pile of mulch that is on the slope. So this is basically the process that I would repeat over and over again. I used about 100 logs for this slope that is about 100 feet wide, and it has worked really well. Some of the logs are really big, so I was being very careful moving them. Still, I strained my back a little bit moving some of the logs because some of the logs are really heavy, and I was just sometimes not careful enough. Now, if you're doing this, I seriously suggest that you take care not to strain yourself because it's just not fun. And if it is a really heavy log, like an elm log, I would say that you pay special attention to the logs and make sure you don't hurt yourself. I also want to tell you that I actually do this for fun. I take breaks from building the shipping container house because that kind of work is really heavy. Cutting the walls out, doing the welding, and plasma cutting and all that. It was just a lot of work. And when I wanted to take a break, I would then come to the garden and work on this stuff. Here is a tent skeleton that I will use to form a fenced-in vegetable garden area. I'm hanging some trellis from the top for cucumbers and beans to climb onto next year. I'm beginning to clear the space to store some of the shipping container walls that I've cut out. I want to stack them neatly in this space. Now this space in the future will be the site of 3 single-car garages. I want to have 3 single-car garages because in between the single-car garages I'll be able to plant some good trees like black walnuts, maples, and oaks. I also want to use the 3-car garages to store some vintage cars such that when I have tree houses set up for Airbnbs in my woods, I would be able to entertain my guests with a trip to the ice cream parlor in town or to the local restaurant on my road. So that is the future plan, and I've never talked about it before, but I'm already working to construct the skywalk to the tree houses. Here I'm trying to save some of the wooden pallets that came with some of the supplies, so I covered them with the container wall cutoffs. I'm now clearing the space to store my E-Z-GO golf cart. The E-Z-GO golf cart is a fairly long one, it's not running, but I plan to get it running, and I plan to build it up like a Darth Vader vehicle so I can use it to fetch guests at the end of the half-a-mile road to go to their tree houses in the woods. I first put down some shipping container wall cutoffs so it's easy to walk on. Then I used my tractor to move the E-Z-GO golf cart into the spot because it is not running. Here I'm clearing the space of a third single car garage. I'm using the space temporarily to store my Harbor Freight 4x8 load trailer. I'm now moving the 2 big pieces that have been cut out of the shipping container to form the 2 double car garage doors. These are big pieces that are not easy to move, but fortunately I have a pallet that is just wide enough to help me to move these big pieces. I'm moving these 2 big pieces into the corner where I will build 2 more single car garages. Those car garages will actually be for the tractor and for the Wrangler with the snowplow. I'm using 2 big wooden pallets to form 2 temporary walls, and on top of the walls I will use the shipping container wall cutoffs to form a temporary roof so that the 4x8 load trailer is out of the rain. Now I started to move all the shipping container wall cutoffs into the storage space so that they're stacked properly together. I have to tell you that this was the most boring part of the whole thing, and I couldn't wait to get it done. And when it was all done, I was very, very happy about it. Then I continue to get logs and mulch from outside the gate. Now, this is going to be a really boring part for you, but for me, it was really enjoyable because I could see the progress every day as I was working on it. So, bear with me, it'll be done very soon. I do hope you will keep in mind that I'm not trying to grow a full garden this year. I'm trying to set it up, try to grow something, and see if it works. Then next year, we're going to grow a proper garden. I'm sure many of you know this already. 1-year-old wood chips will not help the garden too much. 2-year-old or 3-year-old wood chips would really help the garden to grow. So the wood chip that I'm getting from outside the gate are actually about 2 years old. So this will be well established next year for proper growth. I will not fence in this terrace garden area. It is too big for a fence also. It is not going to look good. So I will grow stuff that the rabbits and the deer will not eat. So the things I will grow will be potatoes, onions, garlic, leeks, herbs, things that the rabbits and the deer wouldn't even touch. I do worry about the quality of the soil on this slope. The dirt that I got from the shipping company actually is pretty good but not great. The mulch will further enhance the quality of the soil, but I really need some compost. I did go to a local horse farm about a mile from my place, but the time was not right because the 3-year-old horse compost was buried in a lot of weeds, so I've decided to get that maybe in the winter. You can see that on the slope in the mulch there are two plants sticking out of the mulch. They are elderberries. I want you to keep that in mind because at the end of this video they have grown quite a bit. I continue to work at this end of the terrace. I add more mulch, try to build the terrace garden here. On the left side of the screen, you're going to see some plants sticking out of the ground. Those are asparagus plants. Asparagus plants are great because you can harvest them for 15 to 20 years. I planted these about 2 years ago. Next year, I should be able to harvest them. They will continue to expand and they will continue to provide really good food. The slope here has a pretty sharp drop, so I needed to find some unique logs to accommodate the contour of the land. In the foreground you will see some garlic plants. I've been planting them for 2 years. These are elephant garlic plants. Next year I will plant them side by side with the potato plants. They are good companion plants. These logs in the foreground are elm logs. They're fresh cut and they're heavy. I think the big one strained my back. It took me a month to recover from it. In contrast, the pine logs are nothing. They look big, but they're not heavy at all. I'm getting close to being done with the logs and the mulch here, and I'm pretty happy about it. I dug up a tent skeleton that was left in the weeds for over a year. It is a Harbor Freight tent. I plan to use the skeleton to form the fenced-in garden area. I guess I'm the typical male because I didn't read the instructions. I simply went about putting the tent skeleton together without reading anything. I eventually got it together, but I'm sure it would have gone much smoother had I read the instructions. But it's a tent. I thought I could just put it together without reading any instructions. Then I wrapped chicken wires around the tent skeletons to form the fenced-in garden area. I used leftover electric wires to tie the chicken wire to the tent skeletons. Then at one end of the fenced-in garden area, I built a gate. It's already pretty late in the vegetable growing season, but I decided to plant some vegetables anyway to see how they would grow in the fenced-in garden area. I planted tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and all kinds of stuff. Here I'm using wood chips to form a nice garden path to the gate from the grass. I've decided to organize these pallets and put them in a pile neatly in the corner so that I can clean up this bank and complete the terrace garden build. As you can see, this place has been a dumping ground for all kinds of junk. So now I'm paying the price for dumping all kinds of junk here, and I need to clean it up. Then I cover the ground with some mulch. The plan is to have the grass grow through the mulch, and it's going to be a nice place. I finally bagged all the trash. The place is now beginning to look pretty nice. We're making progress on the shipping container house. You can see that we're trying to put on some siding on the front, but let's focus on the terrace garden. I want to give you a quick tour. This spot will remain as is because I'm going to plant a couple of fruit trees, and then under the fruit trees I will plant asparagus plants because they are good companion plants for fruit trees. And this is a peach tree, and the twigs under the peach tree are to prevent deer from eating the peach tree. I have a couple of elderberries that are doing great. For the rest of the terrace garden, I will plant mostly potatoes and garlic and leeks and onions and chives. I tried to plant some potatoes and they have done pretty well, and the season is pretty much over for them. But next year
I will get a lot of compost and plant potatoes all over the terrace garden, along with elephant garlic, because these are the things that the deer and the rabbits won't eat. I will also plant some herbs with them, and so you can see some herbs that are doing pretty well here. I also have some asparagus. I think if you plant some asparagus in your garden, you can continue to harvest them for the next 20 years. So this is a spot that I've kept for them to expand into. Going into the fenced vegetable garden, because this is the kind of stuff that the deer and the rabbits would devour very quickly. This fenced in garden has done pretty well. I have planted tomatoes, beans, lovage, cucumbers, peppers, sweet potatoes, and chives, and one zucchini plant. This experiment has gone really well. Next year, when I have more compost in here, it's just gonna flourish much more. So the terrace garden is ready for next year, and I can see all kinds of plants flourishing here, and I will keep you posted. I will also keep you posted about the shipping container house build. So stay tuned, and thank you very much for watching.